the whole situation was terrible, but knowing how heartbroken you were on top of it, that wrecked me. And so like for me, that will always be for me like the saddest, most difficult moment of life. Hey bud. Say this, watch, look. Say, hello and welcome to another episode of the Everyday Edwards vlog. Yay! Can you say that? You can say that? So, we have to explain to everybody that we're a little late putting this episode out because
our life has been crazy.
We had a lot going on over the past week and a half. I think we mentioned it in our last video that we had a youth convention coming up with 108 people. So we went away and we did that last weekend, which was incredibly fun, had a great time. And should we show them some clips?
Absolutely.
All right, here's some clips of the fun we had this past weekend at the New York District Youth Convention. Hello and welcome to another episode of Everyday Edwards, where Jamie does not want to make a vlog right now because we're on our way to convention and we're on a bus. 2, 3, elevate! So after we got back on Saturday night.
Yep.
It was then time for a very amazing holiday.
Yes.
Now, should we tell them what it was? Did you remember? Okay, I think what he meant to say was
Easter.
It was Easter, and what did we do for Easter? First of all, we recognize this right here, right? Jesus. Yes, it was the day Jesus rose from the dead. It's the day that we celebrate and recognize it. And the second thing that we did was this. We celebrated Easter. We did some Easter egg hunts. We had some fun with it, so it was a lot of fun. Caleb, can you say Happy Easter? Happy Easter, everybody. Right, bud?
We went to Nana and Pop-Pop's house.
You got some presents, we got some chocolate, we had a really good time, and Caleb got some cool bunny ears, which he just absolutely loves wearing, obviously.
And what else did you get, honey? Did you get your first Easter basket?
You got your first Easter basket, and your second Easter basket, and your third Easter basket, and we had a really good time. So that was just a quick recap of the Easter festivities, and so we're gonna put Caleb to bed now and we'll be right back. So we put Caleb down to sleep and we wanted to play a game this week that I think would be fun because I don't know if we're the only ones, but I did want to kind of check with our audience if anybody else feels like with their spouse that you guys just think the same way. Like, you guys can finish each other's sentences, but even beyond that, like, you want to bring up a topic and your wife or your spouse is like, I was gonna say exactly that. Like, I was thinking that exact same thing. Like, the longer you spend together, and it doesn't just have to be, you know, in marriage, but also friendships and other relationships, like, you just
end up finishing each other's sentences.
Yes. Like, a lot of times I'll come home and be like, Jay, we gotta talk about this. And she's like, I was just going to say that. I was just thinking that yesterday. And it's just like a random thing. Not even like something like, you know, what are we having for dinner? But like, I was just thinking about this person that we haven't talked about in the last, you know, 4 years, and all of a sudden we both are thinking about that person. And so it's just pretty funny the way that happens. So here's how it works. We're gonna say 1, 2, 3, and on 3 we both have to say whatever it is that we think the other person's thinking. We have to say it on 3 though, and we have to try to get the same thing. So the most important part of this entire exercise is that you say something on 3. 1, 2, 3, Yankees. 1, 2, 3,
Beach.
Tiny Woman. 1, 2, 3,
Cookies.
Vacation.
Oh, honey. Oh, honey.
1, 2, 3, milk. 1, 2, 3, Caleb. You have to. 1, 2, 3, Ellen. 1, 2, 3, rigatoni. 1, 2, 3, pasta. 1, 2, 3, date night. You have to. 1, 2, 3, your bed.
Shattered phone.
1, 2, 3,
Adams.
Verizon.
Airplane.
Vacation.
I was just gonna say vacation.
You didn't say
I know,
that.
but I was just gonna say vacation.
No. 1, 2, 3, Montana.
Biscuits.
1, 2, 3, Pioneer. 1, 2, 3, organic.
Elk.
1, 2, 3, shoot them.
Bonfire.
1, 2, 3, guns.
Stars.
1, 2, 3,
Chocolate.
candy. 1, 2, 3,
Hershey's.
marshmallows. Dang it, what's a marshmallow? It's not even a thing. 1,
Is it
2,
marshmallow?
marshmallow. 1, 2, 3, graham
Chocolate
crackers.
Oh.
1, 2, 3, milk.
Fire.
1, you already said fire. 1, 2, 3,
Cookies.
Again. 1, 2, 3,
Milk.
chocolate chips. 1, 2, 3,
Ghirardelli.
1, 2, 3, San Francisco. All right. That took so long. Our first ones were like 3 guesses and we had it. That was a long time to get there. But we read each other's minds. Okay, so all of that, I was thinking about something separate that kind of ties into this.
Okay.
And so I think it's kind of interesting.
Okay.
I want us to write down, and I got a paper and pen for us. I want us to write down the 5 most impactful or like memorable, but like important, memorable events that have taken place in our relationship. Top 5 besides our wedding day, moments like memorable, good, bad, just things that stand out to us. See if any match. And then I think it'd be interesting to see why we choose which ones that we choose. We're gonna put this here in between so we can't see this plant. This is like a fence in the yard. All right, ready, go. Okay. Okay, you tell me and I'll tell you if I have the same thing written down, the first thing I thought of.
Honeymoon.
Okay, that was the first thing I wrote was our first day in Bermuda together on our honeymoon. Like first day, like I remember waking up that morning and we looked out the window and
We were so excited that we were there.
so excited and it was so beautiful and
So that was the first one you wrote down?
first thing I wrote down was the first day in Bermuda. So we're together for sure on that. Okay, I'm gonna write the second one. This one is very obvious, but I did for 2 different reasons. So I put the birth of our children, which technically is 2 different. So do you have that?
I have that as the 3rd thing I wrote down, but I have that together as well.
Okay, so that's an obvious one, like anybody's gonna put the birth of their children, but I think the reason is because
I was thinking the same thing as I was writing it
like
down.
with Caleb, it was such our first child, Caleb, our little boy. It was the most traumatic, like first of all, the whole pregnancy process. Like we'll
get back to that later.
We'll get back to that, but like
but
that
the actual
birth, it was we went there.
We always say it was like the best but like worst scariest day of our life.
Maybe we can show the picture. Remember the picture?
The picture.
We have one picture that we think about when we're on the elevator, right?
Yes.
Just getting to the hospital, and we're just there to have a baby, like
we don't know what we're getting ourselves into.
Ignorant and unaware. So we're gonna have a baby now. What do you think, baby?
I'm very excited.
2nd, 3rd.
Here we are.
Let's do it. Of what's coming next, and what came next was like craziness and like everything was going well, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the night we wake up, and maybe we'll go into more depth in this one time, but we wake up to nurses flooding into the room, and his heart rate had stopped multiple times, and eventually an emergency C-section, and just the
Long
craziness
story short,
of it.
After 19 hours, ended up in an emergency C-section.
So the best, worst, like most traumatic, most joyful, like all the emotions that I could possibly think of, all being merged into one. Ellie, easiest, quickest, like she was there, was like ready to go without getting all the details. What was your second thing?
So the second thing that I wrote down was doing IVF and the implantation and the transfer.
Yeah, so that was definitely, and I honestly don't
write it?
have that. I mean, I have an aspect of it written down.
Okay.
But that was the journey, and we always even keep saying we're going to talk about it, and we're going to spend the whole episode devoted to it, just because we know how painful the process is and how difficult the journey is, and like our heart breaks for someone who's and people who are in the middle of that right now, because we know the tears and the pain, and so like for me, number 3 that I have written down was I was working for UPS at the time, and I remember being on the truck when you called to say that, you know, we found out that we lost the first 2, and technically like you miscarried, right? You know, and so like the pain that I heard in your voice and the sadness, and I was at work in the middle of my day and like couldn't exactly leave right away, but was about to, because it was literally the worst experience. Like if I had to pinpoint the worst moment of my life, that was the worst moment of my life, because just hearing your voice, like it's the whole situation was terrible, but knowing how heartbroken you were on top of it, that wrecked me. And so like for me, that will always be for me like the saddest, most difficult moment of life. But really, I think that without that, then you don't enjoy, you know, it's not like you compare one to the other. And so you have the highs of life and you have the difficulties of life, and it's part of the whole journey. And you don't ever want to go back and relive those things or even go back and think about it again. But if I'm honest, you know, when we're talking about the 5 most, like the biggest, most impactful moments of our relationship, that is like seared into my memory. Yeah. But to know that we went from that to then having the 2 beautiful babies that we did. I
guess that's why I didn't write it down. I obviously remember that, and I would count that as one of the worst days of my life. But I'm just so grateful now to have our babies.
Yeah, it's almost you forget all the difficulty. You almost forget because and the pain
it was worth it, and God knows, and He brought us Caleb, and
and even without that, we would have got past it. And you know, it's just that's the most difficult season of our life, and that's why our heart breaks for anybody who's experiencing that, because we obviously get it. Okay, so
what was
so far we have
for you?
So that was number 3 for me.
Okay.
So now on number 4. So number 4 for me was...
I'm so interested to see what you wrote.
Number 4 for me, and we'll show a clip of it right here because we have it, is when we found out that we were going to have a girl.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, well, we had the moment because we had Caleb already.
I don't know what was more shocking for me though.
Caleb's reveal?
Finding out if I was having a boy first?
Yeah.
Because...
I knew it!
I was convinced I was having a girl. Everybody else had me convinced I was having a girl.
I wasn't convinced.
And then... yeah, I don't know which one I was more shocked about, but I'm surprised I didn't write that down.
But once we had Caleb, I knew I wanted to have a girl. I knew how much Jamie wanted to have a girl. So that ball went up, and all of a sudden the pink, powder was flying everywhere. And I just am so happy for you in that moment, in addition to being happy for me, but just knowing like the joy that it was bringing you to have a girl. All right, what was your number 4?
My number 4 was our trip to Arizona and California visiting the Cyrex.
Oh, that is a really good one. If Pastor and Sister are watching this episode, we
love you so much.
Pastor and his wife who married us, and I didn't really even know them very well at the time of our marriage, just had gotten a chance to meet them briefly, but just the most amazing couple and a huge influence in our lives who we love. It's just one of those connections that you make in such a short amount of time that really has impacted our lives. I guess it kind of does tie together again though, because my last one was wedding planning. So it was the time of preparing for our wedding.
That's a good one, honey.
So I guess it wasn't so much me and Jamie as me and her mom. Shout out to Mom for all the help, and honestly and truthfully, our parents did an amazing job helping us plan for that wedding and supporting us, and just really like from the very beginning, it was just an incredible thing. But it was just a lot of fun. Like I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think many or all guys.
Interesting fact. Yeah, I was just going to say that. Interesting fact about Sam and I. Sam's much more detail oriented. He's much more creative and organized. I
sometimes
can't stand doing that stuff. So really, you and Mom and your mom planned.
Yeah, I just remember being up with Jamie's mom, and we'd be getting to 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and Jamie's over on the couch, and we're...
That's not true.
A couple nights it was true.
I was probably baking them cookies or something.
But during that time also, we're saving for the wedding. So we're playing cards all the time. We're not ever going out to eat.
I think that was, for me, when I think back to that time, the best thing about that time
Yeah.
was we literally for 9-10 months did not go out, did not go out to eat, did not go out to the movies. We didn't spend
We
anything.
didn't go out with friends. We didn't do anything.
We didn't do anything. We didn't spend any extra money.
So you had to
on
save
anything that we
everything
didn't
for the
have
wedding.
to.
Yeah.
And we saved every penny.
Yeah.
And we did it.
And we spent that time together.
And
which
we
was so
spent
much
that
fun.
quality time together, and we played lots of rummy, lots of
rummy,
cards,
yes.
lots of bananagrams. But it was just a really good bonding time.
Yeah.
And
So cool to have
we
that.
may
in
not
your
have had a
relationship,
long dating
We
season.
dated for 4 months.
We dated for 4 months, but we were engaged for about
11 months.
10, 11 months.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the best times
Yeah, I
of
agree.
our relationship thus far.
It's funny, we did pick a lot of the same things with the exception of maybe buying a house and going to Arizona, but like those are some of like the biggest, most influential moments
Yeah.
in our life.
But it just goes to show that we have so many things to be grateful for. We have so many awesome
Yeah.
moments and memories.
Yeah.
And we've only been married for 6 years.
Yeah,
so we
that's
have
very
lots
true.
more to come.
Yeah, 6 years, a lot happens in 6 years, but no, I think that definitely is very true. So, just want to encourage everybody, like, this is a fun game to play.
Yeah.
Sit down with your friends, sit down with your family, and kind of go over those things, because really if it gets you to that point, and this wasn't planned, but being grateful for what you have, like what's
just
better
reflecting.
than being able to be
Yeah.
grateful for those moments and to be grateful. Like for us, we can look back at every one of these moments and see how God worked and what he did. And that
I think
really
that's
is
the coolest part.
Yeah, just
about all of
milestones.
this, yeah.
I think that's really, really cool. But thank you so much for watching again. Hope that you guys have an amazing, amazing week. Be blessed. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Okay, me too. Oh no, I have baby food on me. Oh, honey.